Once again, I'm Bruce Carlson, and Kay Tomlinson is also here as well. And our topic today is cryptocurrency, which is in the news a lot. It's used a lot in fraud. Kay is going to run that down for us, and then we are also we got a few more people. And then we are also going to talk about some actual legislation here in our state that would take some concrete steps to fight back against cryptocurrency fraud. So that'll be coming up in a little bit. And Kay, would you take us away?
Absolutely. Thanks, Bruce. And so welcome all of you. Great to see all of you today for Fraud Watch Friday. And so, whether you're here because you're kind of confused about cryptocurrency, or maybe you're just what I call crypto curious, believe me, you're not alone in either case. So thank you again for joining us. So cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, there's hundreds that are out there, are hot commodities in online trading. And yes, it's possible for an investor, an experienced, educated, crypto knowledgeable investor to make a profit with this trading. But many, many people have experienced dramatic losses, increasingly through fraud. So our goal today for a few minutes is to learn some crypto basics. Now, I know we're not necessarily all computer techs or IT gurus, so I just want to give you some very basic understanding and then talk about how crypto is fast replacing gift cards as the preferred payment method for scammers. And then we want to share some information about something you might not be as aware of. ATM machines that deal in cryptocurrency that have literally become an open payment portal for scammers. So we'll start at the beginning. Cryptocurrency is a kind of digital currency that only exists electronically. It's not like my $20 here. I can't hold it, I can't crunch it, I can't put it under my mattress so no one can take it. And there's many different kinds of cryptocurrency. New ones are being created all the time. And perhaps the most recent is one you might have heard of in the news, Trump coin issued by the president. So I'm not going to go into detail about how cryptocurrency is created. Just know that it involves complex mathematical formulas, special software, hardware, usually used by more cyber technical folks called miners. And it's based on a technology called blockchain. These miners solve mathematical problems to create crypto coins for themselves as a reward. I saw an interesting explanation of how difficult this process really is that goes like this. I ask you, a miner, to choose a number between 1 and 20. If you say the same number that I choose, you win. Free coins. If not, we're going to try again. But this time, instead of 20 being the upper number, you have to try to win some coins between choosing the same number as I do, between 1 and a million. And then 1 and a million. Pretty complex. And you might have heard how much electricity it takes to mine cryptocurrency. Now, I've seen estimates that to mine 1 Bitcoin, it takes about 155,000 kilowatts for just one. So if you compare that, the average US household consumes about 900 kilowatts per month. This is not climate friendly. And the value of cryptocurrency is determined by demand. It's just like the stock market. It's a shared perception of value. And not all types of coins have the same value. I checked this morning. 1 Bitcoin has a value of 96,939 US dollars. So if I've got about 97 grand, I can buy 1 Bitcoin. And there's more than 25,000 other types of currency that have been coming and going in the marketplace. And more than 40 of those have a market capitalization of more than $1 billion. So this is huge. It's literally everywhere. We're right to be curious and confused about this. But if you're not a miner trying to create this cryptocurrency, how do you even get it? Well, you can buy cryptocurrency through a company that's called an exchange. You can get it through an app, a website, or a cryptocurrency ATM. And the key is which of these are legitimate, which are created or used by scammers to take your money. And then once you make your purchase, you've got your coins. Where and how do you even store them? Because again, it's not money you can hold. Cryptocurrency is stored in what's called a digital wallet, and it can be online, on the internet, on your computer. You might have an external hard drive that you plug into your device, and a digital wallet has a wallet address, and it's usually a very long string of numbers and letters. But if something happens to your wallet, you lose the password to your digital wallet, it's stolen or compromised, which can happen very frequently. The online exchange where you bought it goes out of business. It's going to be very, very difficult to find someone that can step in and help you recover your funds, because we have to keep in mind, because cryptocurrency only exists online somewhere out here, it's very different than traditional US dollars. These accounts are not backed by a government. The government has no obligation to step in and help you get your money back if you lose it. And as I said, values change constantly. You can buy $10,000 worth of cryptocurrency today. Tomorrow, maybe it's worth $6,000. Maybe it's worth $12,000. That's the lure. And cryptocurrency payments do not come with legal protections. So if you're a criminal, a fraudster, what does all this mean? Cryptocurrency has the advantage of being very difficult to trace. It doesn't have the same legal protections as, say, your credit or debit card. And payments usually can't be reversed according to the Federal Trade Commission. And, let's be honest, many, if not most, potential victims of fraud don't know detailed information about cryptocurrency. And they assume it's safe. Hey, it's in the news. Very rich people are involved with it. Folks have told AARP in the past that, of course, crypto is fine. It's everywhere. Everybody's using it. They accept it. It's okay because they hear about it all the time. Well, that's not really true, because the FBI has said that in 2023, where we have the most recent numbers, Americans reported losing almost $6 billion through fraud involving cryptocurrency. That's a lot of money. So how does cryptocurrency play into fraud that we've been talking about each month here at Fraud Watch Friday? Well, there's unfortunately several. Phony investment managers using fake platforms lure unwary investors into setting up accounts on online websites. Of course, they promise fabulous returns. Or you might be contacted out of the blue by someone claiming to be an investment manager, or, oh, I'm sorry, I sent my text to the wrong number, but how are you today? And pretty soon you strike up a conversation. And then it's promising friendship. And as you talk about real money and easy money, it's pretty enticing. They guide you to an investment website that looks absolutely real, but it's a clever fake. You invest money. There's lots of routes to this. And when you try to withdraw it, you can't. They offer opportunities to invest upfront with small amounts. And you think, compared to the promises, this small investment seems kind of reasonable. It's a common tactic of cons. Making the initial ask so modest, it just seems foolish not to take the chance, because look at this potential big reward. of course, it's a scam. And of course, financial grooming and romance scams are a part of these crypto scams as well. One former FTC official said that he was convinced that crypto romance frauds are the most common frauds in the world right now. Okay, I don't know if that's true, but it's obviously very popular. But instead of sending money or crypto to your new love out of a jail, to get them out of a jail in a foreign country, they want you to share in good fortune with a crypto investment. And of course, scammers impersonate government agencies, law enforcement, utility companies. And what's becoming more and more common is these companies contact you and want you to transfer your money into a wallet address they give you for safekeeping, because there's a data breach, there's an investigation, there's fraud, there's ransomware, any number of things, but they want to help you keep your money safe. So, red flags. Only scammers demand payment in cryptocurrency. I'll say that again. Only scammers demand payment in cryptocurrency. And only scammers are going to guarantee profits or big returns, claims that you're going to make big money. And actually, that's true whether it's crypto or not. But we always say, don't mix online dating and investment advice. And if you're pressured to pay, you know, you get a call, a text, an email, social media message claiming to be from a government agency or even a company you might recognize. If they pressure you to pay, it's a red flag. You know, don't click on those unexpected links that you get in your devices. And remember, no legitimate business or government, Freudian slip, no legitimate business or government will ever email, text, or message you on social media to ask for money. And they're never going to demand that you buy or pay with cryptocurrency. So these sound pretty familiar, don't they? These red flags, whether it's cryptocurrency, gift cards, wire transfers, cash. Sounds pretty familiar. So these are the basics. And now I want to talk about crypto ATMs. I mentioned those earlier because when it comes to making a payment on a fraud, one of these crypto frauds, more and more scammers are going to stay online or on the phone with you as they direct you to a very local crypto ATM and give you step-by-step instructions on how to insert money and then convert it to cryptocurrency. And they're going to typically direct you to send crypto by scanning a QR code that they give you. All you have to do is hold that QR code up to the ATM camera, and that directs your payment right into their digital wallet, and then it's gone. You know, the Federal Trade Commission had numbers for the first half of 2024, and they said that just of reported fraud, about $65 million was lost to crypto ATM fraud, specific to crypto ATMs in just the first 6 months of 2024. And during that 6 months, consumers over the age of 60, like us, were more than 3 times as likely as younger adults to report losing money to these ATM scams. And the median loss reported for everybody that reported scams, $10,000. That's a lot of money. You know, one gentleman in Texas had reported that he had gotten a frantic call. His son had been arrested and, of course, needed $5,000 in legal fees. So, grandparent scam that we've talked about in the past, right? And so he said the caller instructed him to withdraw the money from his bank, and he said this was different. Deposit it into a Bitcoin ATM at where? His local grocery store. He followed the instructions and then he realized he'd been scammed. And of course, money was converted to Bitcoin, sent to the scammer's crypto wallet, and it was unrecoverable. And he was quoted. He said, "I was scared." He said, "I'd never even heard of a Bitcoin ATM." He said, "I hit the panic button and I let panic take control of my good judgment." Or another elderly widowed woman living alone, and this is unfortunately becoming a very common scam, received a phone call from her bank saying that her bank accounts were at risk due to a security breach. So she followed the instructions from her bank and she withdrew quite a bit of money and deposited it into a secure digital wallet to keep it safe using a cryptocurrency ATM. Closely located at her neighborhood convenience store, was just down the street. So we need to think of crypto ATMs as payment portals for scammers. So next time you're in a store, whether it's a 7-Eleven, a gas station, Fred Meyer or Safeway, Whole Foods, check to see if they have an ATM that accepts and sells cryptocurrency. You're going to be surprised. Go to your browser and search crypto ATMs near me when we're done today. I think you're going to be surprised as well. They're everywhere. So just a couple more points to know before we move on. Crypto ATMs are not bank ATMs. You have an account at KeyBank. They don't have a crypto ATM. This is information from the Washington State Department of Financial Institutions. These are private machines, privately owned. They're kiosks. These are not bank ATMs. You're not accessing your bank account when you use them, and you're using cash. So typically people carry large amounts of cash to deposit into these ATMs. And most kiosks only take cash. So there's no limit right now as to how much you can transact. It's a fantastic way for criminals to launder money. And we should know that ATM operators, they earn money by charging a transfer fee for every transaction. It can be as high as 25% of your transaction fee or transaction. So if you send off $1,000 or deposit $1,000, that's $250 transaction fee. And there might also be an exchange rate fee that can be as high as 27%. That's on top of the transfer fee. So the main point, as we've looked at crypto basics, a little bit about fraud, and then a little bit identifying what these crypto ATMs are, then the main thing to remember is these are currently not regulated. You go to the ATM at your bank, oh, there's tons of bank regulations. I mean, you have no idea how many bank regulations. Crypto ATMs, unregulated. And so that's the point that we want to talk about today and share some additional information with you regarding what's happening here in Washington State. And for those of you that are joining us from out of state, you might check with your legislator to see if this is something that your legislature is working on. So Bruce, has Kathy joined us?
Yes, actually, Kathy is here. So would you like to introduce Kathy?
I would love to. Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to introduce you all to Kathy McCall. Kathy is the Advocacy Director here at AARP Washington, and she works with senators and our representatives in Olympia literally daily, fighting for issues that support seniors here in Washington State. And she has been generous to agree to come and talk to us today about a specific issue that's now being debated in Washington State, and it's these crypto ATMs. So Kathy, what can you tell us about this issue and what's happening there? And then, let me look. We've got 76, 75 people on our call this morning. What can we all do to help in this issue? What action can we take?
Great. Well, thank you so much for having me on Fraud Watch Friday. I understand that this is becoming the hottest show. So I think it's really because people really want to understand, and how to protect themselves from fraud and scams. And as Kay was saying, these crypto ATMs are popping up everywhere. And I saw a question in the chat. Basically, there's very big companies that own these things, and they pay merchants to have them set up in gas stations, convenience stores, restaurants. In fact, I was telling Kay right in preparation for this, I was going to go take a picture because I was not familiar with crypto ATMs before, actually, even before I started working on this legislation. And I was at my local Greek restaurant and saw one of these, and there was all sorts of flashing lights and, crypto ATM. And I'm like, what the heck is this? And was really surprised to see this ATM. And then I actually did some research on it, and then had been talking to legislators saying, oh, there might be a bill actually related to this. And then AARP nationally said, we are actually taking on a national campaign to address this issue around crypto ATMs. We know that cryptocurrency is something that is emerging. There's actually been countries that have tried to adopt cryptocurrency as their official monetary unit. El Salvador was the most recent, I believe, but they shifted because they could not get the population to actually adopt it as the official currency. But there are numerous countries, including the United States, where there is the exchange of cryptocurrency. The challenge is that it's also untraceable, and that it's really challenging for an individual consumer that is not super sophisticated, either from a technology standpoint or understanding kind of the conversion and the how these crypto coins and cryptocurrency develop value. There's numerous shows, actually, if you want to watch on, there's some that are kind of fictional accounts on Netflix. Some are documentary series. Some of them are very entertaining, but it really helps you understand how complex cryptocurrency is and how it's used globally. So I'd really encourage you to read some of those and watch some of those. I have, and it's just really helped me understand how this works, because it reminds me of my 6th grade class where we were challenged to develop a new currency for the school that would be exchanged. And, the real challenge is if, and I designed the currency, it was called Leaps. And so Leaps had a value that you could exchange at the cafeteria, but you also had to do something at the cafeteria. So you had to clean off 5 tables in order to get 1 Leap. And then you could use your 1 Leap to get a Rice Krispie square. So, and use that monetary exchange. And that's kind of what cryptocurrency is in a very simplistic way. It's a recognition that somebody is going to accept that currency for a trade in goods or services, or exchange for another form of a monetary unit. So when it comes to the ATMs, it's what's scary about them is that they are becoming so prevalent. And again, these companies pay these businesses to have those in their facility. So they pay them sometimes $200, $300, $400 a month. Not a ton of money, but for a small business, that's a steady stream of revenue. And so they have them in there. And so also one of the things that we want to do through AARP is start educating the business community about, yes, these are sustained sources of revenue, but they are also places for huge frauds and scams to take place. Once AARP decided that we were going to be working on this bill, I also was in contact with the sheriff's department over in Spokane, because he had also indicated he was very frustrated because he was not able to take any kind of legal action, or trying to address these scams. And there was one where there was a woman put in $80,000 into an ATM and it was gone. There's no way for him to trace it, no way for him to track it down. So he was really frustrated that we need to do a better job in creating laws that protect consumers when it comes to these crypto ATMs, or they also call them virtual currency kiosks. So the sheriff's department, and then we also connected with DFI, which is the Department of Financial Institutions, and every single state has the equivalent of a Department of Financial Institutions. Sometimes it's the Department of Banking, but there's always some type of financial institution regulator in every state. And I would encourage you that if you have not heard about legislation in your state related to crypto ATMs, I would really encourage you to reach out to them or look on their website to see what current regulations they have related to crypto ATMs. This is all happening at the state level. The federal government has chosen not to take any action, so it's really up to states to initiate this legislation. So DFI, so I'll get to the question that I saw in here in just a second. DFI already regulates crypto ATMs. They have done a better job in this state than some other states, but in having conversations with them, they realized that they had not done enough because there was still significant numbers of frauds and scams taking place here in Washington state. So we all got together and started working on legislation that Senator Kaufman had initiated. And she is the chair of the Senate here in Washington State, Senate Business and Financial Consumer Protection Committee. And she had initiated a bill, and we saw the bill and felt like it didn't go far enough. Because the key part of this legislation is, number one, is to have a cap on the transactions. So that means a cap on how much anybody can either put in or take out of one of these crypto ATMs, so that we could prevent what happened to the woman where she deposited $80,000. So we put a cap on it, and it passed through that Senate committee. We still are waiting for a Senate vote. But basically what had happened was we had, or the two things. So the two things are, one is the cap on the transaction amount. So it's capped at $1,000 here in Washington state. Some states have a $2,000 cap. We went a very aggressive direction for a cap on a $1,000 transaction amount. And we're hoping that this will be model legislation for other states. The second thing we did was Kay mentioned some of the fees associated with these transactions. The fees were all over the map, up to $15, $20 a transaction. We put a cap on those and at $5 a transaction. And that's still, I mean, generous, because these crypto ATM companies were fighting us so hard. They were showing up, you know, it's like, here I am with DFI and the sheriff's department, and there's 6 of these big companies there that are trying to say that these are important for consumers. And I'm like, how is this important to, you know, the average consumer? And what we're seeing is this increasing trend for these to be misused for fraud and scams, and older adults being targeted by fraudsters and scammers to use these crypto ATMs. It used to be the green dot cards. It used to be, you know, the scammer or the fraudster would say, go to your local 7-Eleven and buy some green dot cards, and then get, you know, scratch off the back and give me the numbers. What they've done is they've shifted a lot of their emphasis and the focus over to these crypto ATMs. So we are really trying to clamp down and make sure that if there are legitimate businesses that have to transact in cash, they can still go to various ATMs and make their $1,000 deposits. But we also know that same pause for a consumer from a crypto ATM where they make a $1,000 deposit, and then the scammer's telling them, go to another one, make another $1,000 deposit. It gives the consumer just that second to think, wait, there's something really wrong with this. There's something not right. And to take a pause and talk to a friend and say, hey, this is something that's happened. Does this seem legitimate to you? And really to have somebody other fact check and validate and get you out of the ether, so that you're not making irrational decisions based on emotion or based on fear or a lack of something. So the legislation, again, we continue to work on that. The other really important part of this legislation, and I'm going to have to actually look at my screen because I can never remember all the provisions, because one of the most important things is to have a paper receipt. And the paper receipt right now, it needs to include the name of the customer, the time, date, and precise amount of the transaction, the amount of fee, if anything was charged, the exchange rate, the full transaction hash or identification number, the public virtual currency address of the customer, and the amount of any difference between the price paid by the consumer for any virtual currency and the prevailing market price of the currency, and the name and unique qualifier and contact information of the licensee. So that is a paper copy of a receipt. That is something that, as a consumer, if you feel like you've been scammed, you can actually use that and provide it to your law enforcement official, who can then help in the investigation and try to track down if you feel like there has been an abuse of and fraud or neglect that has been done to you, that you can actually have that paper receipt, and at least gives you a little bit more of an opportunity for restitution of the funds that you've lost. So those three things are really important. Again, the limits on the transactions, the transaction fee itself, putting a cap on that, and then the paper receipts. Our state, Washington State, we have notices on the outside of the crypto ATM telling consumers, warning, that's like a big cigarette, label, saying, warning, these are known to, be used for the transfer of funds for scams and fraud. So we've done a good job. If your state has not done that, if you go to your local grocery store or your gas station and you see a crypto ATM that does not have a big bold label, that's one of the first steps that a state can take to actually start to address this issue and help engage consumers so that they are aware of what's being done with these crypto ATMs. The other thing is to, also contact your legislator or, sometimes it might be a mayor, it might be a city council person, but a lot of the legislators have the ability to initiate legislation. And you can say, hey, Washington State's been doing some really great work, as is AARP. We've actually worked with some outside counsel that has provided us additional insights into how these are used and misused. And again, we've been working very closely on the model legislation. And Bruce just put into the chat the bill itself. So it's Senate Bill 5280. And again, it's led by Senator Kaufman. We feel really good that we're going to be able to prevail and move this piece of legislation forward. But it's also going to take all of you. If you are residents of Washington State, we are asking you today, because the bill is currently sitting in rules, and rules is basically that it's stopped before it goes to the Senate floor. And then the bill gets a vote in the Senate floor, and then it goes to the other chamber. It goes over into the House. And then it needs to go through the same process to get a vote in order for it to pass, and then the governor signs it into law. So if you are a Washington State resident, I want you to go onto ledge.wa.gov. If you don't know your state senator, and contact them and say, I want you to support 5280 and protect us from crypto ATM and the scams that are being prevailed through the use of that technology. So I saw, and thanks Bruce for putting that in there as well. I saw another question. Who has heard of crypto? Oh, no. There was another question in here. Hold on.
Well, and Kathy, this is great information. And I noticed one question that I thought was interesting, and I'll comment briefly, and then maybe you can comment too, was in terms of, how is crypto used legally? because, there are legal ways that these crypto ATMs are used as well. It's not just for fraud.
Yeah.
It's a perfect payment portal for fraud. But, there's legitimate uses. And, there are companies, if you, again, go on your browser and search on companies that accept cryptocurrency payment, you're going to be surprised at how many companies will let you actually pay them in cryptocurrency. Whether it's Target or Microsoft or Walmart, Amazon, there are several. Some people that are very knowledgeable about this currency and the way it's used like to do that. And that's how they manage their payments, and they understand how to do it. And, some people will use the ATM to make those payments. Some people want to do everything in cash. And so they use those crypto ATMs for that. They take their cash and put it in. Some people like the anonymity now of that. I don't know. What are some other things that you've had these companies that own these machines that are defending their placement? Have they told you, here's why we want to have them for our customers?
The crypto industry, basically during some of the hearings, said there are a lot of businesses that do everything in cash, and a lot of legitimate businesses. So here in Washington State, we have a very large marijuana industry, which is all done in cash. It's legal here in Washington State. So that is one use, is for cash-based businesses that use cash and want to convert their cash into some other currency that Kay was mentioning that can be traded. So again, I go back to my example from when I was in 6th grade and my leaps.
Mhm.
So the leaps have to have value for 2 or more people in order to be something that you can trade. So what these companies, the Bitcoin companies, are banking on, literally and figuratively, is that their Bitcoin or their virtual currency will be accepted by somebody else. And for in trade of service or for an item. So just like my Rice Krispies for cleaning off tables, that there's a agreement that will be accepted. So there are a lot of companies, a lot of global companies, that they don't want to deal with international global markets and the monetary conversion of, especially if you have multiple countries involved in a transaction, there's different monetary rates that change, constantly. And so they look at using some of these virtual currencies as a way to do global business on one single valuation of that value. So you'll see a lot of global companies looking at how they can actually use this more and more for the exchange and trade of money, so that they don't have to worry about rate fluctuation of dollar or of the rate, the regular tender rate, or in a particular country, and that it makes it easier for them to trade and exchange currencies on a global market. But again, these are very, very sophisticated companies with huge numbers of individuals. I used to work for Microsoft, for example, and we had a whole entire floor of people that just handled they called it the treasury for Microsoft, and it was hundreds of people. That's all they did. And they worked on the financial markets and looking at, the trading and assets of Microsoft. So that's why it's challenging for an individual customer or consumer to fully understand this. And I have friends that they have apps on their phones. So it's just something that to be really aware of, and for you to be part of like today's webinar, you are leaps, head, shoulders ahead of the general consumer that does not fully understand the use of this technology and the use of this virtual currency. And what we're really trying to convey to you all is that there are legitimate uses for this type of currency. There's legitimate uses for these types of ATMs for the regular general consumer who doesn't understand, first of all, they might not understand cryptocurrency or virtual currency and what is that. And then they're under the ether. They're being pulled by emotional connections to a crisis, or out of love in a romance scam, or that they found that, you know, their son or daughter has been arrested, or their grandchild is being held in a jail in another country. There's all these emotional things, those scammers, or that you've been, you know, contacted by the IRS and you need to pay your payment now or you're going to be arrested. All of those put you in this heightened emotional state where you're all responsible people and you all want to do the right thing. And they're trying to give you, as a fraudster, they know they're playing on that emotion and they want you to follow their lead and take your money and put it into these ATMs where it's untraceable. And so what we're hoping to do by this is that you can also go out and talk to your friends and your family and tell them, hey, when you see one of those, hey, I was just down at the corner store and I noticed one of these ATMs right in our own community. You know, just FYI, be really careful if somebody asks you to put money into that, because it's really difficult to trace that money and then to actually have law enforcement go back, find out what happened, and try to get the money back for you.
Kathy, I've got a question in the chat that I thought was a good one, and it's something that I've heard you talk about. Scott asks, my question is, who the heck is paying for these crypto ATMs to be installed wherever? You know, I think one of the things that's interesting is these are not, you know, banks or large financial institutions. Who are the companies who are behind these crypto ATMs?
They are very large global companies, and they are paying the businesses, again, $250, $300, $400 for them to be in this location because they make money on the transaction fees. They're also making money on the float. The float is when you've deposited money and the time period between when the money is deposited to when it actually gets to the Bitcoin conversion. There's a period of time, even a few seconds, that they make money on. And so they're getting money from the transaction fees. They're getting money from the float. They're getting money if they are also invested in one of the virtual currencies. So it's basically a pipeline into their wallets in terms of money to be made. And it's kind of like, one of the things I was thinking about is like those candy machines, you've seen them, where you put in 25 cents and you're benefiting the Lions or, you know, the MS Society, and somebody can go in and collect that money. What they're doing is, it's not for any charitable cause. It's purely for pure profit making. And when you see those crypto ATMs, there's nothing charitable about them. There is nothing about just sheer profit making. So that's the thing you need to be aware of. And we're hoping that by putting this cap, the $5, we know the industry is going to come back hard. I'm just waiting for the amendments to show up on this bill when it goes to the Senate floor. And I know when it goes back through the House, because they're arguing that they're so charitable, we're so good, we're so nice, we're putting these in low-income communities because we're benefiting the store and the shop owner. No, you're not. You're making money. You're making thousands, if not millions of dollars on the backs of unsuspecting customers who are putting money into these, either for legitimate purposes, but the ones that we're really concerned about are people that are inadvertently being scammed and taken advantage and putting their life savings into these machines. And it needs to stop.
Yeah, I would encourage you that all of you, whenever you next go into a store, if there's a Coinstar machine at the store, stop and take a look at it. You can you can get paid in cryptocurrency instead of getting your little receipt you take to customer service and get cash. It's a crypto ATM and a Coinstar machine. You know, and this is something else, Kathy. Scott also has a question about the untraceability of these transactions. And, you know, for the blockchain technology, in some cases, yes, it is used to be able to trace things, but the blockchain is very, very complex. If you have a password manager, 9 times out of 10, the technology behind that software is blockchain. Very, very hard to crack, but there are opportunities to trace those transactions. The key is that law enforcement, from what I've been told from the Department of Justice, DOJ, and the FBI representatives, is that you really need special training. And they're just now starting to get to the point of being able to go in. If you have all the information to give them and you've lost a lot of money, they might be able to go in and try to trace that. If that tracing goes to an overseas organization that is like a big business doing nothing but scamming people here in the US with crypto scams, then your money's lost. But again, understanding and being able to navigate this technology, like Kathy said, for the ordinary consumer and many law enforcement agencies, police force, your local police force, they're also ordinary consumers. They're trying to catch up just like we are to understand this, to be able to trace. So that's why FBI, Department of Justice, all these different places are really working to catch up. That's how I feel. Working to catch up, Kathy.
And the Spokane County Sheriff, who we've been working with, who's just been absolutely fabulous. He has now become like one of our state's experts on this issue. And he was testifying in support of the bill. And he was actually at a conference in California. I saw somebody mention California because their law enforcement across the country are dealing with this, and consumers and people are showing up and saying, I think I just lost money and I can't figure out how to get it back. And they, you know, every single time they're like, was it a crypto ATM? And they're like, yes. And they didn't know. They're just like, no, it was an ATM and it was in the local 7-Eleven, or it was at the gas station or whatever. And they're like, oh, it was a crypto ATM. And so consumers are not fully understanding what these are. And how they work. And again, the law enforcement as well, they're learning and trying to catch up. I mean, the profit motivation is so high and so incredible. And there's so many stories of people saying, you know, oh, I've made $1 million, $1 billion. They haven't. It's all virtual. And until you can actually convert that into Rice Krispie squares or something of value to you, it's not worth anything. So, you know, it just has to have some value for you and somebody else that you can actually exchange it for goods or services in the future.
I've got a question that I thought was good from James here in the comments. And he asked, do the businesses that agree to have these ATMs installed in their places have any liability when the ATMs are used for fraud? I mean, isn't that part of the problem that once your money's in that machine, it's kind of gone?
They do not. And it's actually something that I kind of, you know, making a mental note of other things that we can be doing. And I want to talk to the equivalent of our state chamber of commerce, which is the Association of Washington Business, and talk to them about a consumer awareness. Because in one situation we heard, I can't remember if it was the same person, the $80,000 that she put in, is the restaurant person came over and gave her a chair to sit down. So there's got to be something where maybe they're not quite, you know, mandatory reporters, but there should be some kind of training or awareness that goes on with those, you know, business owners, that these are prevalent and being used for scams and frauds. And maybe it's a requirement before they accept the money and they accept one of these being put into their business, that they go through some kind of required training. I don't know, you know, if tort law or liability protections, you know, would be workable. It would be a great aspirational goal, but at least if we could do initially first wave of let's educate those shop owners, let's assume good intent that, they are receiving some kind of financial benefit from having these in there, but at the same time, let's make sure they're aware and maybe, have them on a webinar like this as well, so that they hear about this, because I don't think anyone, really wants to understand or realize that they just help somebody defraud somebody of their retirement savings or their lifelong savings. So I think there's potential opportunity in the future for us to continue to, raise awareness about these and help consumers and the businesses that have them understand the challenge that we're faced.
Carol asks, is there a legitimate use for cryptocurrency that cannot be addressed by using a native currency like the US dollar? I think maybe that's a philosophical question. I don't know if you want to tackle that one. But I was wondering if you had any thoughts on that question.
I would go onto Google. Kay was mentioning this before. Go into Google and put in what companies accept Bitcoin or accept a virtual currency. And there are some companies, again, if you think about some of the global companies that do, I'm in the process of doing some home remodeling, and I was looking for very specific door handles, and they're only made by some company in Poland or something. I can't remember. And when I went on their website, they have a Bitcoin insignia on there. And I can't tell if they only accept Bitcoin or if they would accept, a credit card from me. And I just said, forget it. I'm just going to find it's too, I was just like, that just seems really odd to me because I'm not familiar with it enough to use it as a monetary unit in a transaction, like buying, 10 door handles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, actually, that sort of brings me to the question that Leslie's asking, which I hadn't even thought about, but it's a very good question. They say, I've never deposited money in an ATM. Can you withdraw money from a crypto ATM? If so, what are the consequences? But I thought the question of, like, we've talked about putting dollars into a crypto ATM, but can you get dollars out?
That's a good question.
I don't know. I've never heard of anybody,
It's,
I suppose.
I don't know if ATMs have that capacity that are crypto specific ATMs. Like I say, Coinstars, if you want dollars, it prints out your receipt. You then have to take to like a register customer service to get dollars. But if a crypto ATM is specific to electronic only transactions, in order to give you dollars, it's going to have dollars in the machine available to spit out. I don't know, Kathy, the answer to that. To me, it seems more logical that you can put your cash in, which of course someone's going to pick up to clear the cash, and then move money from one wallet to another wallet. Have you seen that, Kathy? What do you know about that? I'm obviously don't know.
You know what? I just did a quick Google search.
Excellent.
But you have to have a virtual. It says yes, you can withdraw US dollars from a cardless ATM using a virtual card. I don't know. This doesn't answer the question.
If you have a wallet with your own wallet with cryptocurrency, and then, you go to the ATM, you enter your wallet ID information and the password to where now you're accessing your wallet, then the question would be, can you say, this wallet is worth, $2,000. I want to pull out 500 USD. Is it going to give you $500? I don't know. Andy, are you still on the call? You've been a miner in the past.
I am on the call, and
What do you
anytime
know
that I've
about
withdrawn money, it has been through a crypto exchange that demands to have your social security number. And I think one of the challenges of pulling money out would be now you're fighting the IRS because selling crypto, the IRS is very sensitive to that at the moment because they want their share. Because a lot of people have a lot, people, I mean, I bought Bitcoin at 100 and they really, really, really want to know when I sell it. So I think it would be very difficult to do. I would guess that if they don't have your identity, they probably don't want to do it. But I don't know. I haven't tried it.
Okay. And so maybe not in a crypto ATM, but if you go to a company, legit company, that's an exchange, you can do it, but they want a lot of information you might not want to give.
Right. They want to stay above board with the IRS for obvious reasons. So they're happy to change anything they want into or out of cash. And if you're legitimately trading with crypto, that's where you want to be doing exchanges in and out of cash. Because they do it, they report, they are trackable and traceable.
Okay. Yeah. So basically the bottom line is, well, from my perspective, stay away from crypto ATMs. In any instance. And if you have an interest in getting involved in ATM, or rather in crypto, go to a legitimate, reputable exchange that can answer your questions, that are going to be more than happy to take your money to buy crypto and walk you through that. Probably about 6 months ago, I thought, I need to know more about this. So I was going to take my $50 and go get $50 worth of crypto. So of course I went online. Oh, I was going to get so educated. And, I just kept my $50. I just said, this is not worth it. But, if that's a direction that y'all want to go, that would be great. Just really get educated. Kathy, what closing messages do you have for all of us here today?
Again, if you're in Washington State, please contact your state senator and say, please pass 5280. It's the crypto ATM or the virtual currency kiosk bill by Senator Kaufman. Please pass it out of the Senate as is. Do not amend it. We think we have a good law here. So please contact your legislator. If you are in another state and are interested in learning more about what AARP is doing nationally, we do have some links. I think Bruce has put some of them in, of what the national AARP is doing on this issue. But when it gets heightened to AARP has made it a priority, that this is serious. And this has become something we've seen across state lines in other states, other communities. And slowly, the states are becoming very engaged. I have counterparts in all of the states. And right now, I know there's at least 6 or 7 of us working on this legislation. And they're waiting to see what we have in terms of model bills so that they can run it in their own legislature, if not this year, next year. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for the time.
I'd say one thing that strikes me is that if you go to a bank ATM, they have a lot of these features. I have a limit on how much I can withdraw. I get a paper receipt. So it's applying sort of ATM regulations that are on other ATMs to these crypto ones. And then I wanted to thank Elizabeth, who said that she already has sent comments in support of SB 5280. Thank you very much. We are going to have these links in the follow-up email that we send you after this event. And it's also got a survey. And I want to ask you, because I know you get a lot of surveys from Amazon and everybody, but I read the survey, Kay reads the survey, so a real person actually reads those surveys. And I think we're going to let Kathy go because she has a very busy schedule in Olympia, and we appreciate her time coming to talk to us about this. I think this is probably not the last time we are going to talk about this. There were a couple of questions about how crypto works and why it's a good idea, and I have to say that I am not educated enough to know. I think perhaps we'll have to get a crypto evangelist or something to explain it, because I know there are people, and I've talked to a few who want to tell me why crypto is the greatest thing, and I have to say I don't quite get it. So I don't I don't know if we in the Fraud Watch Network we tend to be pretty skeptical. So, like, to understand why it would be a good idea, I think we have to get somebody who believes that it is a good idea. So I think we'll work on that. And then I wanted to mention that if you would like to get involved with AARP, either, like either to help us promote legislation, or to volunteer, or to become a fraud educator, or to get involved with any of our other programs, you can send us an email. I just put that in the chat, and all you have to do is say that you're interested, and we will get in touch with you and tell you all the programs that we have. We have a lot of things that are not fraud related. One of our big priorities is support for family caregivers. So if you are caring for a loved one, or you're at all interested in that topic, that is a major focus for us. I should put the Fraud Watch network helpline in there as well. We always mention that, because if you have questions about fraud, you can call that number and talk to a Fraud Watch network volunteer. And I can tell you that the people who work those phones are very well educated and can provide you with information that can help you help a loved one, or maybe if you've been contacted with something that sounds like it might be real, but you want to check it. That's a free resource. You can call and get the personalized help. So I've got a couple more links. Kate, do you have any closing thoughts?
Just a caution of, if you are interested in getting involved with cryptocurrency and you're not now, take the time to really educate yourself and read, explore, examine, investigate as much as you can, and then do a little bit more. Talk to people that have crypto, that know crypto. And as Andy had said, if you're going to get involved, do it through an exchange that is legitimate. Check them out, make sure they are legitimate. Don't use crypto ATMs and assume it's going to be okay. Because, crypto, it's like computers. Inherently not bad. It's how we use it and how we understand them that can be good or used for ill. So educate yourself. And if you're interested, go for it. You guys are not scammers. But we've talked about what to look for red flags for fraud, any type of fraud. So just always keep those in mind. Trust, but verify is always the key. So I want to thank all of you for joining us today. Thank you. Join us next month for Fraud Watch Friday. And we'll have another topic and talk about current frauds that are happening right now as well, and what to be aware of.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that I put the link to register for our next month's Fraud Watch Friday. So if you want to go do that now, then it's taken care of, and then you'll get a reminder the day before. But we also appreciate, people who register in advance. But that's live now. So if you want to go do that, that would be great. Yep. And in the meantime, I don't know what our topic next month will be. Things are happening so fast. So Kay and I are going to get together and talk about that. But it's going to be on a current fraud. But in the meantime, the thing about the crypto ATM bill is it's an opportunity to actually do something concrete to fight back against fraud. And so, that doesn't come around that often. And so it's a chance to take some concrete action. So with that, thank you again for joining us, and we'll see you next month.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Have a great weekend.